Stay a while and listen.
Hello, and welcome to the Agony of Positivity. I am Ross, and with me, we'll see if he can get his additional name correct.
Coltrane Saul.
No, it's Big Saul Train Daddy, and this week we're adding Holla.
There you go.
I can probably find clips of Scott Steiner saying all of those words, especially the Daddy Holla. Like, that won't be a problem at all.
Probably just in one promo.
Yes, and if you want some numbers thrown in, and Kurt Angle knows. That's how it could start, is that Kurt Angle knows, and then your expanded name.
I think Scott Steiner is kind of like Arnold and Sylvester Stallone of the 90s.
Okay.
There will never be another character like him.
I would say so. Well, I had heard for Arnold, like all the one-liners in his movies. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never researched this because it's better to just believe it. Like, he had some kind of weird clause where he could do one-liners. So all, like in Batman Forever or whatever it was, where he was like, chill out. Like, that's all Arnold.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of those are just all him, and they're just so terribly bad they're good. But the reality is, it makes him so memorable in those characters that it's like, this is awful, but at the same time, you remember him. So that might, Now granted, at the time of Batman Forever, I don't think Arnold really needed any help at that point, or some of the other stuff. But maybe during the days like Kindergarten Cop, it's not a tumor.
Well, it's funny that Nicolas Cage playing Superman. I'm assuming at the time I would have been like, "Oh God, this is a terrible movie." Now I'm kind of bummed that we never got that movie, because I think it would have been so bad it would have been good,
Well, especially with like the script where there's going to be like evil polar bears and all kinds of the crazy stuff. It's
exactly.
One of those if you get that as serious, like, check out the new blockbuster Superman action movie we're making, and you see it and you're like, why is Nick Cage fighting a polar bear in this trailer? You're going to be like, are you kidding me? But then, years later, where we've gotten much more serious takes on it, and it's like, this just isn't good. Now you're looking at it like, you know what? I'd like to see what that would have been like. Because there's they have no pressure, I guess.
Yeah.
What I want is, there has to be a Batman movie, like the Nicolas Cage of the Batman movie. Like, what Batman movie were they going to try to do where it was like, we got Carrot Top as Bruce Wayne? Like, just something insane that they just never did. That's what I want to know.
Yeah. Well, maybe we need to, for like next week's episode, look that up to see
if there is one.
Failed. I'm sure there is. I almost guarantee you.
But I want like modern, like 2000 onward. Like, I'm sure there's like, we'll find something for like a 1984 Batman that was just awful. Until we find out there's like an old Batman Beyond that had Adam West as Bruce Wayne. It's like, why didn't they make this? Maybe that's what it would be. Just him showing up. But so how's your week been?
It's been all right. Started back to work, cleaning the rugs.
How's that going? Or is it nice to be back to working?
Nah.
You feel like a productive member of society?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gives you something to look forward to, I guess, because just sitting at home not doing anything is kind of lame. But
right,
I don't know.
Well, it'd be one thing if if sitting at home was your choice and you were set for life, versus this is just a weird scenario. What am I doing?
Yeah. It's just I still don't like work, but
Right.
It gives you something.
Now, are there a lot of people who are like, I want my carpet or my rug clean for sterilization purposes?
Yeah, well, some people have called us in and they want us to clean their house because of the corona and whatever, and
Right.
they want us to basically give them a guarantee of that's going to be 100%. And you can't really do that because even
No.
because you and me worked at a pharmaceutical company
Yeah.
where I mean you would have to have someone come in and do like swab tests and everything, and it's just we
Yeah.
just like well it will be cleaner when we leave. We can't say it's going to be 100%.
Right.
you
Well,
know.
and I mean, it's hard to say if the chemicals you're using. Plus, I mean, if something's on a surface that's not the carpet, there's nothing you can do about it.
Sure.
Now,
Yeah.
did you guys? So this is going to be a strange question, but people might actually have some interest in this. So you mentioned like we were at pharmaceutical. When we were working together, we were on the manufacturing side where you
Yeah.
actually took like the raw ingredients, you blended them up, and then in some cases cooked them, and then sent them to a different place to be put into like a tablet form or put into capsules or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I never saw it. Did you guys ever have to do like the UV or the blacklight tests on any of the stuff that you ran?
No. No.
Okay.
I saw them being made,
Yeah.
but I was never a part of
So
that
before I
group.
was on that manufacturing side, I did the packaging side, which is basically where like
Yeah.
the finished products get put into different bottles and labels put on. And we had quite a few different things that I know you guys didn't work on for sure, like where we were at. But there was some of the stuff that it left like a residue, and they would actually because you'd run like say you ran like an aspirin type thing, and then you ran like a something like a
Diabetes medicine.
yeah, something like that. We had a few things
Yeah.
that we'd run once in a while where they actually had to take like the blacklight flashlights, like that kind
Yeah.
of thing, and you like that was part of the inspection. So you had to be
Oh.
really good on your clean because they were looking everywhere. I imagine like if you haven't worked somewhere that's like a crazy food processing place, that
Yeah.
the level of clean detail and inspection was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just like
Well,
so if you're ever
well,
curious like what goes on in those places, not to say that there's things that don't go wrong, but there's some pretty thorough inspections on all that stuff.
Well, then you had the old timers that worked back in the '70s there, and they would give you wild stories where they're like, "Yeah, we would clean these rooms in our underwear because we didn't want to change out of our wet clothes." I was like, "Why do whatever?"
We
So I
had
mean,
there's a picture that was across from one of the packaging lines, and it always
Yeah.
cracked me up because one of the guys I worked with over on the packaging side was actually there at the time when these black and white pictures were taken. Like he had been there forever. And
Yeah.
they at the time they made these like throat lozenges or something like that. And it's just
Yeah.
the black and white picture. And if you were to like just cover up everything, and I was like, hey, look, that's a picture of like someone who used to work here who founded a Steak and Shake. Based on the hat
Sure.
and the uniform, you'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, is that a cigarette in his hand? Yeah. Like,
Oh yeah, they look like greasers.
Yeah.
Have their sleeves rolled up. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
short
sure.
sleeve, no apron. Like you might see like the burger style hat, like the paper hat, and
Yeah.
that was it. That was your safety back in the days.
Sure.
So it came a long way where we're in hairnets and booties and all kinds of garbage.
Yeah. So how was your week?
I broke my back or something on Tuesday, and then I was laid up until today. Basically, it still doesn't feel good, but I can at least sit upright.
So how do you get these weird? I mean, 'cause
I
earlier in the year, you broke your leg or broke your foot or
broke
something.
the sigmoids. I can't remember the name of it. There's two little bones underneath the ball of your big toe
Yeah.
that are part of tendons and ligaments moving. And the suspicion was I basically cracked one of those based on the X-ray, not suspicion. But so I was in a boot for a while with that. Basically from being younger, and a lot of it stems from skateboarding. A little bit more from other stuff, but the skateboarding, I just beat the crap out of my body. And
Okay.
as I'm getting closer to 40, there's some things like my back will be fine for years, and then I'll have like a year where it's just like every time I turn around, I've done something to it. So it doesn't matter. Like, the only thing that really helps is if I'm deadlifting pretty regularly, like lower back exercise. That seems to help some. But if I, don't do any deadlifting or anything for 6 months, and I don't think about it, all of a sudden I'll notice like I'm fragile. So
Gotcha.
it is very strange. So other than that, I missed work, which, whatever. There's a lot of sad politics that go with finding swords for people and people to work on their swords
Sure.
that are in network that I don't necessarily miss. But that watched some old wrestling. I didn't play video games much because I was stuck on a recliner with my laptop, and it just doesn't run stuff very well. So it was like listening to podcasts or things like that.
Well, I remember I guess this could be a segue into the gaming part. So if you just want to go hit the bumper there.
Yeah, here we go.
Get over here! Time's up. Let's do this.
Every time I listen to the games bumper, I'm very proud of that one. It's very simple, but does very well. So you were about to say?
Because I saw you playing on World of Warcraft on your warrior that you were leveling or whatever.
Yeah.
And I sent you a message like, "Hey, do you want to group up and level?" And you're like, "Oh, I'm just doing this because I'm bored." I was like, "Well, I'm thinking, well, sure."
Right.
That's why I sent you a message. And then, oh no, you kind of just
Yeah,
just faded away.
I was
distance.
not
I was like,
into,
okay, well, whatever.
Because usually if like I'm injured or sick, I usually will be like, hey, I don't feel like all that good or anything, so I'm just like screwing around. And like I was just in such like discomfort that like it didn't even occur to me to explain. I was just like, no,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
it's because it's just like that. Any kind of movement, getting up, getting down. Like at one point, I dropped my phone, and I just stared at it and was like, "Well, it's gone. I may never touch that phone again."
Well,
But yeah, because I got my warrior up to 120.
did you actually level them up, or did you just power boost them?
I leveled my bank account by $60. And then I used that to turn in a quest to the BattleNet shop and the quest reward was a level 120 character.
Nice.
Because I was at like level 76 or close to 80, and I was like, I get no more abilities that matter. The talents were the only thing, but you don't get all your talents until forever. And I was like, I would rather work on some of like the in-game stuff and transmog for the warrior. Mm-hmm. Because basically like the Fury Warrior is a little bit more fun than the Death Knight because it's a lot on the auto attacks. But the Death Knight still, I enjoy the blood, the tank spec for it. So they're both fun, but I was enjoying the warrior and wanted to put some work into it. And I was like, I'd rather just be done with the leveling.
Gotcha.
Like we were talking about this, like I made the warrior a void elf female for basically the same reason. Anytime I played horde, I'd end up being a blood elf of some kind, or in some cases an orc, because I think the armor looks better on those. I think the plate looks better on the void elf female model than the men because the shoulders are so wide. And
no, just in case there's an alliance person, it's not a blood elf that you were
right. I did void elf.
Void,
I'm just saying, like, if
elf.
I'm horde, a lot of times I'll go with the blood elf.
Yeah.
Now, again, like if I was playing horde, I'd have to say like the Magar orc with like that heritage armor. So, but I hate Orgrimmar. I also am not a fan of spikes and mud and wallowing around in filth. So I will never be. I just can't do Horde. I'd like to, but I can't.
I think like if you're playing back in like Classic, the Horde has a feel about it because it has that adventurous side, the dangerous, the mud and the spikes and everything kind of go with it. I think.
No.
To me, at least.
No. I just wish they would be like, you know what? If you want to be an orc that's defected to the Alliance and you can go to Stormwind, more power to you. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm really surprised they haven't put that feature in.
Well,
Maybe they will eventually.
For BFA, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, I just really don't like Orgrimmar. And I mean, you don't like if I think about how often I go to Stormwind, it's not very much. But and then like the garrisons, like the Horde garrison was awful, I thought. Whereas the Alliance one was much more appealing
like
to me.
Like an outpost. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, I just because like the orcs are awesome, like the stand-up straight orcs at least. I like the undead, but like the rest of the Horde stuff, I don't care. Like I just can't do it.
Have you seen some of the models for Shadowlands for orcs and undead and stuff? It looks pretty neat.
Yeah, they
some,
might
like the tattoos and some of that.
Right. It looks like they're adding an awful lot of customization, and I got on my screen here. So, because pretty much I have like Warcraft to talk about is about all I've done as far as games, other than just lose nonstop in Battlegrounds and Hearthstone. Holy moly, I have been getting obliterated, and I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong. So it is very frustrating. Like I'm losing to Pyramid Head Dude or whatever, and I don't understand it. Because like everyone has like 3 Murlocs with poison, and I don't, and it just I don't understand it. But did you see? So this is a little unrelated, but it made me laugh. The height scale that Wowhead has for all the different characters.
No.
So I guess a unit of measurement in World of Warcraft is a yard. So everything is like 3 feet. But it's just a picture of a lot of the faction leader people and how tall they would be. So, for example, like based on this, now I don't know what models they go by, if it's like normal models or battle model, you know, like where in a battle, like Khadgar, for example, is bigger than normal. But so I'm assuming they just pulled it from wherever, but like Khadgar is over 7.5 feet tall. So he is actually taller than, or almost as tall as Sourfang. Gen Greymane is 7.29 feet. Jaina is almost 7 feet tall, which is weird.
Sure.
6.93. It just has everybody. Gen, when he's in Worgen form, looks like he's about a little more than 10.5 feet.
Sure.
Now, what's weird to me is I don't know where they're pulling the measurement from, but they have like Bane Bloodhoof as 10.3 feet tall, but I don't know if they're using, based on a little slider scale thing, I don't know if they're using the tops of the totems that he has on his back, or if they're going by his head. Because a Tauren, because the way they hunch over, they wouldn't be as tall.
Sure.
And then Zappy Boy is like 9 feet tall, basically. So the shortest, like, this is depressing in a way, where the gnomes are like what would be about 4'3", I guess. So it's great that a gnome is really not that much shorter than me. But so I just was entertained by this. They have Tyranda's height, but there's a note where there's no height listed for Malfurion because they couldn't figure out how to apply the brambles, if that should be included into his height. So, That's not really there. I just made that up to take
Oh,
a dig.
oh.
Like, the only reason I'm talking about this is I wanted to take a shot at Malfurion. So
Malfurion, Superman, Duke.
yeah, Duke's
old grudges.
Duke's like a one note thing. Superman and Malfurion, I have a few things that I can talk about them. But so it was funny though, because again, this is on Wowhead. It's one of the things on kind of like their front page when you scroll. Yeah. Because I guess people were trying to figure out how tall like some of the like the jailer and things like that are. So they had this technology. The jailer is apparently 53 feet tall for the Torghast Tower. And then there's some dude, Muzala, I don't know how it's pronounced, who's going to, I would assume, be a raid boss because he's 250 feet tall. So, but yeah, so people were, there were like different comments on here, and like some of them were like, this guy, Maggie, April Fool's was 2 months ago, guy, a dwarf that's 6 feet, Omega lol. It's like, well, in the world of Warcraft, like, the average person might be, 6 foot might be short. We don't know.
Sure, yeah,
so
this is true.
Like, I'm okay if the units they use make people giants. If I mean, how big are the Viking dudes? The Vikrul? Those guys are like 12 feet tall each, easily. Then,
oh sure,
which would be an awesome playable race.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't put those guys in yet. But
maybe.
I think they were corrupted by Arthas there, so I don't know.
I seriously have no idea how some of that stuff works. I was listening to it was something that had that the Noble guy who's like the lore
Noble.
Yeah, like I don't know that he's the lore expert, but he always comes up.
Seems
like
he is.
Right, like it seems like he actually researches stuff based on what Blizzard gives, but he's not like officially with Blizzard. But he is an interesting person to listen to for sure, because there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
where I'm like,
he goes in backstories with all of those guys.
Yeah, well, I liked when they were asking him about Sylvanas' story, and he basically just shrugged his shoulders and was like, "Eh."
It's kind of, you build as you go type thing.
Right. Well, I mean, it's, he's someone who's not for Blizzard, so he can point out the good and the bad, and then if he can have something make sense, it seems like he'll do that. But just is interesting.
So my World of Warcraft experience this week, I've been trying to find ways to make gold. And because I'm trying to... I'm going to fail at this, I already know. But I am trying to get the long boy Brontosaurus thing.
I'm actually in the same boat as you.
The problem is, because I was reading all these gold making things and everything. This one guy made this really good video. And he said that the problem that we're having right now is a lot of people are not playing World of Warcraft because they're done with it. They're waiting for the expansion to come out.
Yep.
And everyone that's playing right now are doing crafting and mining and stuff like that. So everyone is hosting stuff on the auction house, and no one's buying it because you only got sellers. You only have sellers. You don't have buyers.
What I have been doing, if this will give you any help, and I have the pet that I can let you use to get it started, is the jellies that you get for the B-mount. Like, you can put those on the auction house. So when you go and, if you got flying, it's much better, obviously. But you can go around and pick up the jellies and throw them on the auction house. So what I've been doing is just, I'll go around, I'll use my the goggles that I have, pick up as much of that stuff as I can, and I'll usually do like 2 1-hour sessions, because I'll buy the stirrups that let you interact with stuff and not drop your mount.
Okay.
So I do that, and I just throw that stuff up on the auction house. Now, it doesn't sell super quick, but if you get someone who comes back in or who's tired of that grind, you can sell those. Usually a jelly will sell for somewhere in the 50 to... I've sold them for as much as 90 a piece. And so you have like the thin jelly, the rich jelly, and then the royal jelly. And it's basically one's worth 5, one's worth 4 times that at 20, and the purple is worth 8 times. So if you sell, say you're selling the one for 50 gold, I sell the blue one, which is 4 times that, for a little bit more than 4 times, depending on what auction house prices are at the time. And then jelly, so if I'm selling them for 50, I'll put the blue one up for the 225. So it's a little bit more expensive that way. And then the purple would be like 425. So, but I've seen it where I got lucky and it worked out and I didn't get burned on it. People were selling the purple and the blue for really, really low compared to the thin jelly. Well, you can convert the purple or the blue to the others. Okay. So I converted the purple down to the thin jelly, which you get 8 per each, and then I was selling it for like 90 at that point in time. So, if you're watching the values, but now I'm not even close to 1 million gold though, so because I've just now started this. But like anchorweed, for example, you can usually get 70 maybe is what it seems like on our server, and but you hardly ever find anchorweed, whereas the thin jellies there's just nonstop amounts that you can just make a loop around the zone, and you'll have a few hundred. Okay. So something to look into, but I can send you the pet.
Ross is going to make me do this stupid bee grind.
It's not even that. It's more so to get the... you get the bee, but for selling it, next time you get the auction house, type in jelly, and you got the thin, the rich, and the royal jelly. Look at the prices, and then they're pretty easy to harvest. But if nobody is looking to buy those, I went 2 or 3 days in a row where as much as I could get, I could sell. And then I worked on selling 400 of them for the better part of a week before it finally sold. Okay. And then you'll have the few people who are doing it, you'll have to deal with the undercuts and stuff like that here and there. But it's just a matter of catching it. So it's not going to... I don't know that that's going to get you your 5 million. But it might help you get to where you can flip some stuff on the auction house that has some value. So,
yeah, sure. Yeah, the only thing I've been doing is doing old raids. Mm-hmm. So I've been dealing a lot with Khadgar back in the Legion.
Khadgar and Legion is...
I know, he kind of grows on you, though. He kind of... You kind of miss him.
Well, I have the Wondrous Wisdom Ball, and that's one of my favorite pets. Because it... Khadgar is so powerful, but just such a flake.
Sure.
Because I just played through. I was trying to get the Garrison Hearthstone for my warrior. I played through that, and the amount of times where it's well, let's hope this works, and he's about to do something. It's dude, do you have any self-confidence in your abilities? You're possibly the most powerful mage, I think. I don't know I think he's more powerful than Jaina, I'm pretty sure.
It seems like it, yeah.
So...
Well, it's funny that you say that with the whole going back to Warlords and getting your Hearthstone and everything. Yeah. Because I did that on my Death Knight, that I got a free boost because our governor so graciously bought me a Shadowlands. So I've been going back and getting all those, the Legion Hearthstone and the Garrison Hearthstone, and there's a lot of 120s doing the exact same thing.
Yep.
The only one's doing it.
The Draenor one was hard because a lot of the quests you need to advance that, if you don't have them tracked for being insignificant, basically, because they're so low level, I was missing all kinds of stuff and having to look it up to figure it out to advance to the next little section. But yeah, the Garrison Hearthstone doesn't do much, but it is just an extra, we've talked about it a little bit, but I don't think it's ever come across, how big the being able to teleport somewhere like a mage can is such a deal breaker for me on other characters, to where almost everything I have is a Dark Iron Dwarf because they get that extra, the mole machine, basically. But I don't want everything to be a Dark Iron Dwarf because I want... Some of the gear doesn't look good on them. So I don't know if you can hear that. My dogs are outside freaking out about something.
It sounds like dogs are attacking somebody.
No, it's two Chihuahua Dachshund mixes and a Chinese crested just freaking out over probably a squirrel.
A leaf.
They're usually good about the inanimate stuff, but they'll see a cat or a squirrel, and the squirrels are jerks because they'll come up and leave stuff on the stairs.
Sure.
Like just taunting them. But yeah, so anyway, the anything that's like a teleport item, I will pick up on my characters. So like right now for my my warrior, so I got the Garrison Hearthstone, I got the Legion Dalaran Hearthstone, I bought the Kirin Tor ring that takes you to the Crystal Song Forest Dalaran, which is convenient. They have I got the normal Hearthstone, obviously. There is a ring that you can get in Borealis. One of you get like those 7th Legion medals or whatever that you can spend on stuff. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The dude by the boat. For 300, there's a ring there that also teleports you to Borealis. So I'm trying to get that. And then I need to find a guild because you can get the cloak, like the guild cloak that'll teleport you to Stormwind. So I need to get one of those. One of my characters has 2 versions of that so that they both work independently of each other. And then I think the only other thing I got to get is Jaina's Locket from Lich King. So I'm doing the Shadowmourne quest line so that I can guarantee that, because I don't know anyone who has Shadowmourne that I can have in my party to go kill Lich King.
Yeah, not me.
Right. So when I get it, I'll let you know, because you got to get that box that has, or you can buy Jaina's Locket for like 100,000 gold, but I don't think I'm going to do that. So, and then the only other thing I'm aware of that I can get that's in the game is the ruby red slippers from what's it called? The opera.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
but I've never.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never been able to get it to drop. I was trying to get that on one of my Dark Iron Dwarves to add to my teleportation, but yeah, I have some serious issues if I'm not a mage that. Even if I never use it, I need the ability to teleport. It makes me feel claustrophobic if I can't.
Well, it's funny because the cooldown for like the Hearthstone is like 30 minutes in the retail. So it's not like it's all that long.
I cannot handle the few times that it's happened where I've gotten somewhere and it's like, man, I need to get back for whatever reason, and I can't. So I need at least a few options.
I need
preferably
options.
About 7 or 8.
See, it would have been cool with the Dark Iron Dwarves for their mole machine if you could actually pick where you pick on the map where your mole machine would pop up, but make the cooldown like 4 hours or something like that. So you're not completely overpowered or whatever.
That'd be insane. I mean, it's already like an hour cooldown.
Yeah.
I would be okay with that.
Yeah, sure.
Or if one of them just put you in like a portal room.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't know. We should work for Blue.
Yeah, clearly. So you don't run into that issue of feeling trapped if you can't. Or like, do you go, because I'm sure someone else out there has to be the same as me, where they want every teleportation option.
No, not really. I mean, yeah, not really. The Hearthstone, the Garrison, the normal Hearthstone, and then the Legion was all I really need. So,
did you get one of the upgrades in the Garrison gives you a portal, right?
Yeah, like the Mage Tower.
Okay. I'll eventually have to do that. That'll make the Garrison, because as it is right now, it's just a way to get to Draenor. I don't know why, but
sure.
I can go there.
Well, if you're even going to do some of those old raids like I've been doing.
Well, yeah, I did go into Hellfire Citadel.
Mm-hmm.
Did it on Mythic for some of the plate gear, and I'm proud to say that I actually did not get lost.
I was showing my buddy how to do Hellfire, and he's like, "How in the world do you remember this?" I'm like, "I've done it a lot." So
It's
like,
been,
once you figure out how to do it, it's not that bad of a raid. But yeah, it's
yeah, I
something.
actually, because I know the first few times we were doing it, we would get to where, like, you go downstairs and free Grom,
No.
but if you've missed somebody on the way, like, getting back to them can get real confusing.
Mhm.
So, and again, as people who don't play tanks regularly, we don't have that, oh, I gotta learn where I'm going.
Sure.
I have the, I'm just gonna follow this group of people. I'm sure someone's leading the way.
I tell you, the worst raid to run in Warlords is the Foundry,
Yeah.
the Black Rock Foundry. Oh, dude, that or may yeah no yeah
Is
the
that the
Black
one
Rock
where you
Foundry.
start in the
That
shipyard?
is- yes, like the trains are coming in, and that is terrible. I always get lost in that thing.
Yeah, I haven't tried that one in a long time because I don't know. I need to look at what the gear is for plate to see,
Uh huh.
but it's been a long time. I know we've done that one a few times and I know I got lost for sure, or just couldn't do it. Like there was one point I remember trying it when it was it was it Hans and Franz? It's the two-person fight
Yes.
that
Yeah.
before they fixed it, like you couldn't do as a solo.
Mhm.
I've ran, let me think. Yeah, I've been running a lot of the Legion stuff without too much trouble, which surprises me.
See, I've been maybe it's because your mage hits hard or whatever you're playing on.
Yeah,
Some of the Mythic Legion, man, it's a little rough.
I've not been doing
I've been doing
Mythic.
it with. Okay, see, now I've been doing Mythic with a buddy, and it seems like when you put somebody else in there with you,
Mm-hmm.
the cheesy mechanics are factored in. When you do it solo, they're not factored in. So I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, I think it's something to do with like the legacy. Like I obviously, I have Wowhead here in the internet, and I could probably research it, but that would take some time. I think there's something
Sure.
where there's certain fights where if you're the only person, like certain mechanics just don't go off.
Yeah,
Because like, is it
exactly.
Gorfiend, the dude who's in the pit of water in Hellfire Citadel,
Uh-huh.
who looks like the Lucifer from Ghost and Goblins, kinda? Like him solo, he doesn't do that thing where you get teleported or whatever it is. I don't
Yep.
think, because I definitely wasn't killing him that quick with my warrior. So
We noticed because my buddy and me ran it the other night, and he kept glitching on us.
mm-hmm.
So we noticed if we switched to tank, but because both of us switched to tank spec,
Yeah,
he didn't do it. So it's a cheesy tanking mechanic.
yeah, you're basically negating whatever mechanic.
Yep.
Like I only ever did that stuff on Raid Finder. So
Sure.
the now have you seen the gear for Shadowlands? Like, because Wowhead's
Yeah.
gotten an awful lot of it. I'm pretty sure I like all the gear that I have seen. Like,
Yeah.
plate, the leather looks good, the mail looks good on some of it. Like, some of it, not my style, but there's an awful lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Look, Shadowlands, I'm pretty excited for it. Hopefully, it's not like BFA. And huge letdown.
Well, the Torghast Tower seems like it might be really good. Here
Yeah.
it is. I was pulling up a picture of this leather set where it's basically like a vampire hunter. It's kind of what it looks like to me. Where you got
Okay.
like the crazy hat. But yeah, if anyone is into WoW and you want, Wowhead's obviously going to have everything you could ever want and more. But it just looks like a really cool set. I like the different color tints and stuff. But it definitely makes me want to, as it is right now. Now, there could be news that comes out or whatever, because I definitely go on cycles with Warcraft. But as it is right now, it's like, man, I really want
Yes, you
to,
do.
like, to raid. Like, at this point,
Uh-huh.
like, the gear is cool enough that it makes me want to raid. Like, the cloth set's good, the plate sets are good, or at least the castle, what is it, Nathria? Like, seems real good. Like, the cloth set, I think, is cool, because it's got the, like, that Plague Doctor look to it.
Mm-hmm.
which is I'm sure that this stuff was in the works well before the last few months. So some people are like, I saw someone, I don't know if they're saying, like, I can't believe they would exploit what's going on right now and do like a Plague Doctor, and be like, I don't think they just made this in a month. Like with what we know about their development process, I guess you could call it. Like I don't think that's the case at all.
Asmongold Gold talked about that because he was talking about how he wishes World of Warcraft released the blood plague again, just for like a day and not tell anybody. But then he's like, with the current situation, Blizzard would get blasted for it. Yeah. He's like, even though it's been in the game since 2000, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Well, it would call into question, like, why now all of a sudden?
Well, sure.
So, I mean, I wouldn't really care, but you'd have people who just want to be mad. And, again, Blizzard could literally produce a vaccine, and people would be mad at them. Like, I can't believe you had your developers working on this instead of the game.
Yeah, I mean, you always have people either trolling, legitimately mad. I don't know. It's just like some people are just always unhappy about everything. So
yeah, well, and again, it's the unhappy people are the only ones who talk. That's why the internet seems so bipolar. Like as far as
it's true.
Like wrestling is a big example. Is like people complain about this, and then the other people don't say anything because they like it, but then when it goes the other way, there's just complaining, and it's like one big unhappy entity because all you ever hear is the negative.
Ross, you don't know how many times I've been on Twitter on the podcast's Twitter account, and I see people say stuff, and you don't know how hard it is for me not to reply back to them. But I was like, no, this is the show's Twitter. This is not Saul's. So
I
know.
I don't use my personal Twitter at all. I still have never made a tweet. But I also don't really, like, when I see something, very seldom do I read through stuff.
Sure.
Although I am confused. Have you seen... Now, this is technically gaming related, but not really. Have you seen the bizarre Miss Monopoly thing that's going on?
What? No.
I have absolutely no idea what's going on with this. I've done zero research. There's some commercial, and it's a lot of, like, women in the STEM field and things like that. And then it's... Now, I didn't listen to the sound of... Like, I just listened to or watched a muted commercial. And then I don't know if any of this is real. I don't know if it's an elaborate hoax. I'm sure we'll find out more as time goes on. But it's basically like Ms. Monopoly instead of Mr. Monopoly on it. And then supposedly, if you're a female playing, when you pass go, you get $240 instead of $200. Otherwise, I think the game is the same. But the commercial, like, some of the people commenting, they were like, if they really made this as, like, a thing, they are insanely stupid. If it's someone made an elaborate troll commercial, it's genius. But, so I've done no research to find out if it's true. So at some point, just look up Ms. Monopoly and see.
I will do that.
But either way, everyone is angry from what I saw. They're like, that almost, like, my comment to that was almost like, I don't know if this is real or not, and I have no idea what to think. And that was like, but I didn't. But I was just like reading it and like watched it, and I was like, what is this? Because it was prefaced by someone that I follow, where they're like, I really want to retweet this, but I'm not going to. And it was someone who does like animation and stuff like that. And I was like, I went through and figured out what they were talking about, and I watched it, and I was like, this is like one of those real elaborate Saturday Night Live commercials that they do.
Yeah.
Like, that's almost how it felt, because they're like, the little title before the video that the person had originally put was, you're not going to believe what they're selling when they get to it. So I'm like, okay, this seems like a pretty straightforward, like a school, or, like trade skill school STEM type thing.
Yeah.
So I know that they're going to be selling something ridiculous by the end of it, but I can't figure out what it is. I'm like, is this going to be like a bizarre woman's hygiene product commercial somehow? And it turns out to be Ms. Monopoly. And I'm like, what? So I don't know, but at some point watch it, and it's bizarre to me. But yeah, like women are mad, men are mad, incels are obviously mad, because they're mad about everything. So like, I just don't know. Like, it sums up the internet for me when I'm like reading anything where I just don't know. Like,
Sure.
like I haven't verified this against anything, so I don't know if it's true. But this one I just wanted to mention because I was just baffled watching it. So
Gotcha. Well, on that note, you ready to go on to wrestling?
yes, I will bumper us.
Well, I don't know what the hell's going on here, folks. Looks like he's just wearing blue knee pads.
This is a revolution.
Why did Britt take her shoe off to eat that sandwich?
All right, we are ready. So before, because obviously you watched Dynamite, right?
Yep.
The first live Dynamite in a while. So definitely want to talk about that. But I do want to talk about something before that. Now, the first part of this is there was someone on Twitch, First Amendment Videos was the title, like the name of the account. But they were playing 1989 to 90, like NWA, WCW stuff, basically.
Yeah.
And so they had Clash of the Champions 10. So around this era, there's a character, Norman the Lunatic. He was managed, I guess you could say controlled by Teddy Long. So Norman the Lunatic carried around a teddy bear. So he was doing it before a guy in New Japan was doing it. And I'm sure there was probably someone before that, but he had his own little like teddy bear that you could buy and all kinds of stuff like that. But he was basically a good guy who was controlled by a bad guy manager. I guess is how it went. Okay. And he wore, I believe in some cases he'd wear like one wrestling boot and a tennis shoe. But I don't remember much about that. But so Teddy Long controlled him with a key. It was like this big skeleton key. And then I don't remember how, but this was like whatever night of the week it was on. It was like nighttime wrestling is when I was able to watch it. Like I just remember it being on. But this was around the era when Sting was in the Horsemen, and then they turned on him, one of the times. I think that happened a couple times. But so somehow Norman freed himself from Teddy Long's control, or someone else freed him. And then he had a feud with Kevin Sullivan, crazy Kevin Sullivan, from, not the AEW's Kevin Sullivan, that's a different person, I guess.
Yeah.
But I never got to see the payoff. Like, I never knew, I knew that feud ended, him and Kevin Sullivan, but I never knew how, because I didn't have cable or anything to watch the Clash of Champions thing. So they finally have this match, and when I turned it on, it's this match, and I'm like, oh my god, I've never found out how this feud ended. I'm so happy. So it's like a no, falls count anywhere, no DQ style match or whatever. They're fighting all over the place. I forgot how good a shape Kevin Sullivan was in. Like, he is a jacked dude back then.
Yes.
So this match goes on forever. I'm like, well, I just don't know how it's going to end. It's just the greatest thing ever to me. They fight their way into the back. They fight their way, and the crowd boos as soon as they go into the back. The crowd is not happy. I don't know if they didn't have a video feed back then for them to see.
Sure.
And then they fight into the women's locker room. One woman comes out, and I think one of the announcers made a joke, be like, well, there's only like a couple women in the building, which is funny because, different era. Whereas nowadays you'd have like a legitimate women's locker room. But then the door shuts. Like, Norman wouldn't go in there because he knew that it was inappropriate for a man to go into the women's locker room because Kevin Sullivan had gone in there. You hear all, the referee finally, they go in. You hear like all kinds of noise, and then you hear a 3 count, and you hear Kevin Sullivan start talking. He opens up the door, walks out, and does like the flare flop kind of thing. And then Norman and the referee walk, like, so you didn't see the finish. Norman and the referee walk out. The ref holds up Norman's hand because he's the winner. And Norman, for some reason, is holding a toilet seat and looking through it like, you know, like holding up like a mirror or a window to look out of. And that's the end of it. And I was just like, are you kidding me?
You know, I think you brought this story up just because, you know, Norman the Lunatic was Bastion Booger.
I did not know that, actually.
I think
Now, I
that's
might have... Now, that might be why Bastion Booger is so memorable to me, but I genuinely did not know that until I pulled him up and saw the name Mike Shaw. I was like, wait, isn't that the name of Bastion Booger? And I was like, oh my god, they're the same person. But no, so what I remember, like, if you're looking at a picture, like, there's only one picture of Teddy Long holding the skeleton key. I swear, when I was little, I remember it was like, you know, like Key to the City, like the super oversized key that takes 2 hands to hold. Sure. I remember that was the size of that key.
I remember as a little kid and seeing that, because I remember, you know, mayors. You see it every now and then on like TV, and where they got the key of the city. You don't hear much about it nowadays, but back then, back in the '80s when we were kids,
that
I heard
always
it
made
all
the
the time.
news.
And I was like, and I always thought it was like a real key. That it was an actual real honor for someone to get that. I was like, man, how do you get that? Cause, I mean, because I always thought like it was like an ultimate key to let you in anywhere you wanted, like any building you wanted or whatever. Right. And then, you know, as I got older, I
realized. Well, and you wouldn't have thought about it but you never saw anything that was actually needed a key that was that size.
Sure.
Although if I ever like am in power somewhere, I'm definitely going to waste some of the city's budget to create like a giant skeleton key that does something. Like city center area, it like lights up some big light display for some reason that only the holder
like
of that
Christmas
key can.
Displays or whatever.
Yeah, would be pretty funny. But yeah, so the reason that I even bring this up though, that I watched like all this stuff, and it had like the Sting Horseman feud, where Luger ends up fighting Flair for the belt with Arn and Ole and all that, was on throughout the day, and I was, you know, like checking it out here and there, fall asleep, whatever. So time for SmackDown came along. I was like, I'm going to watch SmackDown. I watched the first match on SmackDown, and then they went through like the lineup of the show, and I looked and I was like, or I could go back to 1989, 90 WCW. I'm going to watch that instead because that's actually more interesting to me right now.
It's pretty bad.
Well, I mean, each show, like one, it was presented more like sports oriented. It had a crowd, so that helped. It was stuff I'd actually. It's funny to think about though. Like if you would have told me, "Hey, you can see the Kevin Sullivan Norman match, or you can watch SmackDown." Well, I've always wondered what the outcome of that was. So I would have chose that, even if it was good. I probably would have chose that over AEW, truth be told, because I've been genuinely curious to that for essentially 30 years now. How sad is that? That it just, I've never had the desire to really look into it, but when it happened to be on, I was like, oh yeah. And then what else was going on? Oh, it had the Skyscrapers, which was Taker and Spivey. With their feud with the Road Warriors, which was always good. If I ever am in a team, the Tell 'em Hawk thing, I might actually start doing that to you, where anytime that I'm like, all right, I want your... Tell 'em, Saul. I'll try to do it as much as I can, like the Legion of Doom. Might be a thing that happens, because that is fantastic. But you then have to start talking about the medulla oblongata and basic brain functions or something just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Hawk against Scott Steiner in a promo. There you go. But I think some of this was because you were telling me about like some of the old Ring of Honor stuff last week. So that kind of made me like, because people on Twitch stream like old stuff all the time. I don't know how they get away with it, and I don't really care. But I think I was like, well, I'm gonna check some of this out and see how it was back then. See if it's because like when I was like 9 or 10, and that's when you could get like the different stuff on TV pretty regularly, like random Thursday night Deep South or something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
But the wrestling the commentating I feel like was a lot better in some aspects. The matches are not good. Like, Norman the Lunatic is not a good wrestler. Kevin Sullivan, not the best of wrestlers. Like, I think the weakest backdrop ever and a drop kick were like the high spots of this match. Like, literally the backdrop was Norman the Lunatic running at Kevin Sullivan, him throwing his shoulder down, and Norman doing like a shoulder roll over top of Kevin Sullivan. Like, there was no impact to it at all. But it was like that and like a body slam. However, I was more enthralled in that match than I have any right to be. It was just like, what's going to happen?
I watched this one video they were talking about wrestling back in the day, and the guy doing the video said, he's like, I so wished. He's like, looking back, at the time I probably would have hated it, but looking back, I wish they would have done it. Legion of Doom, or Kevin Sullivan's group. It was Legion of Doom, right?
Dungeon of Doom.
Dungeon of Doom, yeah. So he's like, the Kevin Sullivan group, the Dungeon of Doom versus the NWO. He's like, how crazy and insane would that have been if they would just ran with it? He's like, because you had the NWO who was more realistic, I guess. And then you had the Kevin Sullivan group who was just out there doing witchcraft and like voodoo. And
well, if you would have had like, because Nash and Hall could have reacted to that perfectly. And like,
sure.
To where it's like, what are you doing? But then some of it actually is like legitimate, and they're just surprised. Sure. And I'm not talking like Hogan being like, it's not hot.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, no. Man. I do kind of want to go back and watch some Dungeon of Doom stuff. Because I didn't have, like, I wasn't watching, like, WCW Worldwide. Like, that's all I could watch at WCW in that era. Like, they weren't showing too much of that stuff. So I really, other than just, like, there's that crazy cage gauntlet thing that Hogan was in, I really don't know too much about what was going on.
Yeah.
So I would like to go watch that. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, though. Like, it would have been hilarious. I think NWO would have buried the bejesus out of that, though.
Sure.
Like, they would have had, like, I don't think they would have gave it any credibility.
Oh, no, but still.
Which is probably for the better. Not that the Zodiac wasn't one of the best things I've ever seen. The little bit that I saw him. Or the booty man.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah,
right,
so clearly I didn't watch SmackDown. Yeah. All right, so we got a live edition of Dynamite this week.
Yep.
Finally. Which some people are unhappy with.
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't know. I mean, there's some people with the situation going on. I think there's some people who don't take it. They don't give it the seriousness that it should be given. And then I think there's some people that are just going way overboard with the seriousness.
Right.
I don't think you got to find a middle ground, and it's hard to find people like that. So.
Right. Well, also, like, because there are people who are criticizing AEW for doing a live show. From what they've told, like, one, it's a business, so regardless of that, like, the business is going to try to be a business. That's why you had so many. I mean, GameStop tried to declare themselves as a essential business because they wanted to make money to keep going. So now, from the sounds of it, if they're telling the truth, it sounds like they were taking some pretty serious precautions to test everybody and all that stuff. I do question, like, I could see an argument like, so why are we giving, like, kind of like when NBA teams and stuff were getting tested and people are like, so the average person can't get a test for nothing, but we're just going to test like all these really in shape, well-off people, right? So I can see, I'm on board with the criticism like that because it's always a good question. But it sounds like they were being as careful as they could. People had the option to go there or not. I believe that because like Hangman Page is a pretty big deal for AEW right now, and he ain't been seen except for his whatever he's doing at home making sourdough. I don't know if you've seen him on Being the Elite, the weird stuff he's been doing.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's just weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I love that he I'm assuming he did it for himself since he did like the graphic stuff, but where he uses like the color powder dynamite effect for him just like opening the cabinet and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's one of the best things I've ever seen. To make me like just be entertained.
And the Young Bucks are also they're skipping out, and they're VPs or whatever,
Right.
So.
And then you have the people who are nearby. So, and I mean this goes for WWE too, because like Roman's not there. Now, WWE, you could argue that if you weren't Roman, maybe there'd be some pressure, but I don't know. Like I don't know that for sure. I mean, they got rid of, they laid off a bunch of people, or furloughed or whatever, but. I mean, for the most part, like I'm going to believe that they're saying if you don't want to go, you don't have to, because the backlash they were to get would be insane.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know, but like, because we talked a little bit about this before it started, but like the question would be like, I think Britt Baker's a real good example to use because from a money standpoint, I'm going to make an assumption that being a dentist. So I've heard. I can't confirm that, but also having like an AEW contract, she's probably okay for herself, like from a monetary standpoint, where she can survive a couple months of what's going on, but at the same time, she just now started to get traction with her character. It seems like she's really hit her stride, which is unfortunate that it's not in front of crowds. But I have the feeling when we get back to normal that she's going to be getting some pretty good reactions. Like, to where she might have to be a good guy. But, like, it might be in the situation where she's cheered over the people she should be booed against for what she's been pulling off. But, so someone like that, they might feel, even if they didn't want to, she might be like, man, I'm finally getting what I really wanted to going. I can't risk not being on TV, or I can't risk doing, like, having matches.
Yeah.
But with AEW, at least, it seems like if you create a video of any kind, they'll throw it up on TV or somewhere where it'll get seen.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Now, WWE, obviously, I don't think that, although he's not with them anymore, Heath Slater probably wasn't going to be able to shoot a video at his home trailer park and get them to put that on TV for him.
Sure.
Which, actually, so this is going to derail us a little bit, but did you catch the Revolts interview or the Heath Slater,
Chris
Heath
Jericho?
Miller? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
I thought it was pretty entertaining.
I like
Very eye-opening.
Yeah. So the thing that I actually do want to talk about from that is when they were talking, like the crazy genie gimmick or whatever. Like the pictures were sent out, but when they actually explain what they were told as the thought of it is basically them being like, the only way tag teams are going to get anything is to be a comedy shtick or be clowns or something like that. So that's what we're going to give you.
Yeah,
it actually makes that make sense, and
sure.
it sounds at first blush, or however you want to say it, where it's like, oh, that could be really good actually. Like they could make that work. And you could go somewhere with it. But I think the big concern would be follow through.
Yes.
Like, would you agree that that's probably where that falls apart?
They probably, I mean, now I'm just speaking for them here, but
right.
Just knowing WWE's track record.
Right.
Like, yeah, you get part of that storyline, and then Vince just loses interest in it and just kills the idea. Right. And then
because it's a tag team.
Yeah.
But I could absolutely see if there was a legitimate, all of a sudden they really did push, because you hear it, once a year? We're going to put more focus on tag teams. We're going to make it matter. And then that lasts for a week? So
Yes.
I can see a start to finish story though of them doing that and it being awesome. But what happens if you're the Revival at that point? You get into this thing, you re-sign a contract, and then they lose interest. Well, now you've dressed up as clowns being ridiculous for nothing.
Well, and yeah, I mean,
And you're
WWE
worse off
has
than you
always done
started.
that. I mean, even like with Shawn and Triple H, with the original good DX, the first DX.
Right.
I mean, they were tag teaming a lot, but then it's just like someone got bored with that, and then yeah, okay. And which I thought they would have made a good tag team together, but you know,
Right,
I
they
guess
switched
lose
to...
interest in it.
Yeah, well, there's just not tag teams. Now, it is interesting. Do you ever listen to the stuff with, like, Jim Ross in it? Like, whether it's his thing or, like, the
I've
AEW
listened
after
to it,
show? Okay.
I've
So
listened to it, but I've not followed
he's
it a
real
lot.
big on, well, there's more money to be made as a single star, or you can be better as a single star. So he definitely still has the tag team is not the big thing. Like, definitely like that mindset. So I'm sure that is a WWE mindset as well, probably. Because you have one person. But tag teams, I think, can be really good.
Well, and I understand why, as far as a business, looking at it as a business perspective, because if you have a tag team and someone gets hurt, well, that tag team is pretty much done.
Right.
You know, until the other person gets better. So I understand the logic behind not promoting tag teams, but
Right. But I mean, look at I don't know, like for myself, like the Kenny and Hangman against the Bucks match. Like I've watched that match back a few times because it was so good to me. But you had a lot of storytelling in that. And with tag teams, you can have, you know, kind of like where, like in that one, like Nick and Matt both wanted to win, but Matt was a little more vicious about it. Same with like Hangman, where you had the other part of the team where they were kind of questioning their partner a little bit, but they were still definitely on the same team. But I mean, you can get really good storytelling out of tag teams. You just got to work for it a little bit more. So, because I definitely didn't, like, until I started watching AEW, really. I always wanted tag teams to be good, but very seldom was there anything worth it to me. But maybe the fact that the Bucks are super into tag team, have said they want to be a tag team, being, you know, having some sway, like, maybe we'll find out that tag teams can be good, just no one ever commits to them.
Sure.
So, I don't know. But yeah, the other thing I would say, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to mention that part from the Revival or the Revolt's interview is the outfits were ridiculous, but when you hear like the proposed story to go with it, it actually makes it like, I think that'd be a great story. I just don't think that it would get finished properly.
See, now, what do you think about this? And this is all just rumors and theories and stuff like that, but it's a neat thing to think about. What do you think about like EC3, the Revolt, and I guess Drake Maverick is also like posting like the Revolt videos and he's like reposting like EC3 videos. What do you think about like an ex WWE faction, like basically
like an
running
NWO?
Raw? Well, no, like, but they don't stay like. Because it sounds like they don't want to be committed to one company. So what if you had like a group of guys like that group, and they just travel to AEW, go to TNA, Ring of Honor, New Japan,
But they were under the name The Revolt,
or whatever their little faction is going to be called.
right?
What do you think about that?
It'd be interesting to see if it would work. Because I could definitely see them making it work. Because I would assume you would have them show up and do it official. Don't do like the NWO thing where they're rogue, so to say. They're just showing up doing their own thing. Have them have like contracts, but have it be known. Be like, no, we're here. We have a contract for this match, and that's it. Yeah, like that kind of thing. You're like, our plan is to try to amass the titles, or whatever it might be. Not to take it away
from the best faction and
right, yeah, and have it like our goal isn't to steal your belt and take it to some other company. We just want to have the championship to prove, that we're good, basically, something like that. You'd have to get everyone on board, but they start out like fighting kind of like lower tier people, and you get like some big matches out of it. I think that could be really neat.
Sure.
I think with because New Japan's super into long-term storytelling. The Bucks, I assume it's the Bucks and Cody, especially, but Mr. Khan seems to be the same way. Like they're fine with like slow burns. So if you have like the patience, you could probably make that work. And Ring of Honor, I'm sure, would be on board for some exposure.
Oh, sure.
Because they've been
sure
hurting a
TNA
little
would
bit.
be.
Yeah, for real. Although I don't think TNA is ever going to go away. TNA is going to be like when JTG was employed by WWE. And it was just like, we just kept forgetting to cut him for like 9 years. We just kept paying him to sit at home. But no, the idea I like, for sure. I think it could be real neat.
Because one of the wrestling shows I was watching mentioned that, and I was like, "Is this true?" And you go on their Instagram page, they're all. It seems like they're all like working together to form some kind of faction. It's weird.
Yeah,
and I was like, that'd be a neat idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think you could actually get like some contract because Cobb came in and did like that one shot basically with AEW, and like they still talk about him. So, but he went, I think, back to wherever, but they mention him. So, I mean, I would like it where you could have crossover stuff, not all the time, but like here and there. You see a Ring of Honor guy, you see a New Japan guy show up somewhere, see an 8. Like if you had Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, let's say, show up, and there's going to have a big match with 2 people from Ring of Honor on a Ring of Honor show.
Like the Briscoes.
Yeah. I'm probably going to get that show.
Oh, sure.
Because I'd be like, I'm kind of like, I have characters that I've now become invested in. I've never gotten super into Ring of Honor. Excuse me. Like, not because it wasn't good or anything like that. It's just, it was an awful lot of work to try to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was like weird houred shows. I was like, well, I really don't know that well what's going on. And I gotta, get Honor Club or whatever to see like the pay-per-view or pay for the pay-per-view, however it was working. I just never did it. Sure. Whereas now there's like a brand that I'm familiar with that I know the people are good. I'd like to see what would happen with it. And that would probably get me more interested in that. Or, the Revolt show up on NWA. I can guarantee you I'm going to be watching whatever that is just to see what happens.
Oh, sure.
See if they cart out Jim Cornette in a mask. Instead of a tennis racket, he has like a golf club. And his name's like Kim Jornet. Like,
Sure.
So, I don't know if this is going to fly.
So we're kind of running long here. As far as AEW goes, what are some of the best parts of the Dynamite that you enjoyed this week?
Excalibur. I missed Excalibur.
Okay.
I don't know why I've really grown to like him.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'm kind of looking through this. Jim Ross, I like Jim Ross too. Really, I like the commentary team. But Excalibur like ties it together really good for me for some reason. So, let's see. We had Cody, Janela. I'm not surprised by that match at all. We got to see Nyla just powerbomb the Jesus out of someone for a while.
Replacement talent, yeah.
I mean, we've talked. Powerbomb is such a good move. We got like the crazy MJF green screen promo. Like, did it feel like that was like a super green screen behind him?
Yes.
Okay, like noticeably so, but it was probably like a real place or something. But
it was a good promo.
Yeah, well, I liked where he was like, "I'm only 24, and you keep moving the goalpost on me," or something like that. So I thought that was good. Yeah. Sean Spears clean shaven was weird, right?
Yeah, he should have kept the beard.
Yeah, I like that look better. But yeah, he had like that thing blaming Cody for Dustin getting beat up by Lance.
So it's like, are they going to start feuding again?
I think that they're going to be that they're always going to be at each other, basically.
Like the Macho Man and DDP thing?
Yeah, or Macho Man Hogan kind of thing, sort of.
Okay, yeah.
Although
Probably
I think
better
there's a
than me.
chance that you'll eventually get a payoff where Spears actually beats Cody definitively,
Yes.
as opposed to Cody just always having Spears' number. Let me see here. Got some more Tony Schiavone stuff. Mox and Kazarian. I thought that was a pretty good match, but like, I mean, it was good to see them doing something. Kazarian is pretty good, but it was, it was all, that whole match was to have Dark Order come out, which I did.
Yeah, it was weird. It's weird seeing just Birdie Lee to say, "Okay, I'm challenging you now," which I guess it makes sense because he's the exalted one.
Well,
and
I
he's
saw
there
someone. I guess this is something to talk about for sure, because, technically, Brody Lee is undefeated, but the way he went about getting, and kind of like the same way as Hager, basically, in that case, like, Moxley pretty much called Hager out for that match. So in this one, if you want to get into whether they ever say it or not, like, he basically knew that he could have Moxley beat, tell him that he wanted a title match, and he basically knew that Moxley was going to agree to it.
Yeah.
So in a way, he manipulated him into it. Like, you could definitely go that route. But I mean, he does have like a winning record. Cody can't challenge. If you keep other people busy, it's something to do. So I'm okay with it.
Well,
like, I would prefer them for my own, like, if I was doing it, basically, like, have Mr. Brody, like, I knew I could manipulate him into giving me what I wanted. So that's why we did it.
Yeah. So here's the problem I have with it. So you have been building up to this character, Brody Lee, and I understand. I mean, they're doing the best they can because I think the Corona, kind of just through storylines, and even Moxley said that it's just messed up a lot of the storylines they had going for it. I mean, what do you do? I mean, do you let?
I think
Brody
you let
Lee
Brody win.
So you think he's going to beat Moxley at?
I think it might happen.
Brother?
I'm in the same boat as you. Is like, this is one of those. How do you have Moxley win without killing the Dark Order?
Yes.
But you can have an awful lot of, like, now say they lean into. So this is me just like fantasy booking, obviously. Say you play into it was like you get a vignette with Brody Lee being like, I knew I could manipulate Moxley into giving me what I wanted. That's why you should be part of the Dark Order. You can basically play it up where he keeps doing things to manipulate Moxley, and then you end up him getting Moxley to agree to like a stupid match stipulation that he shouldn't, but because Moxley just wants to get his hands on Lee and he's a fighting good guy, he basically just gets into a situation he can't win, and Brody Lee has kind of cheated his way into the title without actually cheating. And then you actually have, like, the Dark Order with, I mean, from a story standpoint, Moxley is a good guy who has the belt. He's going to fight whoever. That's not going to get you very, very interested for very long, probably, like, from a storytelling standpoint. But you have Mr. Brody Lee with the belt with the Dark Order behind him, and you got to get through the Dark Order and him to get the belt off him. That's a much more compelling story to me.
Sure.
So, and it would be like, wow, I didn't expect that, but because I wouldn't have thought, I figured it would be MJF would be probably the most likely to get the belt off him, but maybe they do it this way. It gives MJF more time. You build up another face. I don't know who it would be. Scorpio Sky, maybe, if he's going to start doing single stuff. Darby, maybe. But someone who eventually, like, overcomes Brody Lee, and then you end up, like, something like that. So, now it's absolutely possible Moxley beats him, and I would agree, like, that doesn't do a lot of good for the Dark Order at all.
No.
Like,
Unless this is your way of just...
ending the Dark Order.
This Dark Order thing just ain't working though. This,
Right, but it seems like it's picking up a little bit better. Like,
yeah.
they gave him 10, who's a pretty impressive looking guy. They've
Well, I do like how now they're all wearing like suits.
yeah, like
sort of.
more
They're all
nicely
wearing, like,
dressed.
Yeah.
Right. It seems like they're putting some work into it, but I mean, the whole thing with like Moxley against the Inner Circle was good because he had all this stuff to overcome. And I mean, it's a super simple story, but they made it work. So same thing, you have Mr. Brody with the belt, and you got to fight the Dark Order. That's kind of more interesting than just Moxley defends the belt, once a month and has a match. Like, there's a lot less story you can do to that. So,
That's true.
and I mean, like Hogan having the belt in the NWO, and you had to fight through the NWO to get to him, was more interesting. Like, it seems like heel stables that have the belt that you got to overcome typically do a little bit better, or you have more to work with.
Well,
And
it's just a classic, like when you're watching a movie or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
the bad guy organization or whatever. Yeah.
So now I don't know, but yeah, I would agree though that if Brody Lee loses, it's got to hurt the Dark Order. So, but I don't know what you do, like, because it ends his title reign pretty short. But like, I don't think if he gets totally screwed over, like you do a crooked ref or whatever, if he just gets beat because he agreed to a Dark Order lumberjack match, where it's like, well, why would you agree to that? That's a bad idea. But he was pushed to where he just wanted to get his hands on Brody Lee. You can make it work. So we'll see. But yeah, it could end up being completely stupid, and it's like, well, you've made everybody worse. Like,
Sure.
you have damaged everyone in this. What are you doing?
Let's see here. You
Evil
had
Uno's face mask on Pro Wrestling Tees is awesome, though. I don't know if you saw that.
Sure.
Sold out too.
Let's see here. Jake the Snake and
Yeah.
Lance Archer did their thing.
Yeah, so Archer wrecks QT. No surprise there. And then
Yeah.
Britt DDT's Brandy, and then she is molested by a snake, basically.
So, do you think that was just a one-off, or do you think Britt Baker's going to join this faction of Jake the Snake and Archer?
That would be so weird.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was
I
like,
think it was
because
more...
because she did the. I've never seen her do a DDT before, so I'm like, okay, is that a payoff to Jake the Snake there, or what are they doing with this?
And it might have just been a way, because like obviously they're not going to have Archer or Jake put their hands on Brandy, but Britt
Sure.
just has a problem with like Cody, since she's constantly
Yeah.
beating him with a shoe. So
Sure.
it could have just been like her doing that, or maybe they're going to have Brandy have a match against her or something. Maybe they're
Yeah.
planning on giving Britt something significant to do here. But yeah, that whole thing was weird, but it was a good payoff because Brandy had that promo before talking about Jake and it not being the 90s, which I thought was really good.
Sure.
And then you have this, so it's kind of interesting. But it's them playing mind games with Cody ultimately. But yeah, I don't know how Britt will fit into that long term or what it is.
Yeah.
Let's see here. We had the weird Taz interview with Darby where Darby just didn't say anything.
Yes.
Then we got the main event was completely insane.
Yes.
Trying
Was
to
it just
think.
me, or was Jericho like? It just seemed like Jericho was looking for stuff just to be like memes during the entire thing.
I think he was just being like that whole thing was just insane. So I think he was just like entertaining himself, kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so we got Matt Hardy switching personalities throughout the match, which
Yes.
fine, whatever. For what this match was, I'm totally okay with that. You had, I liked where they were wearing like the jeans with the old style knee pads over top of them for the street fight.
Yeah.
The Inner Circle getting involved is not a surprise.
I thought, well, no, it's like the beginning of this match for Pineapple Pete attacks,
Yes.
and they're having and the next week they're gonna have a match together. I'm just like,
I am
holy Jericho, Yeah, I guess Jericho likes pineapple Pete.
I would
guess.
assume
don't know.
that like, or he just made the comment and it like kind of caught traction, and Jericho's like,
Sure.
well, let's see what we got. We're gonna give because basically he easily could have been like, oh no, I don't want to do anything with that. But if he's like, oh, I called this guy Pineapple Pete, people are all into it. Let's play it up.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about hating him, and if he has any idea that this guy might have anything, he has boosted Pineapple Pete's stock significantly.
Oh, sure.
So now whether he just destroys him, maybe he puts Pineapple Pete over, or maybe it's just like a competitive match. It could definitely be good for Pineapple Pete, who I guess he's actually just going to go by that name now. I don't know.
Well, I think it's going to work out good for all parties. I mean, it's not going to make Pineapple Pete bad because Jericho's a heel, and heels they can do so much to make they don't look weak no matter what. So.
As long as it's not like the match starts, he Judas affects him and it's over.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And I don't think Jericho would do that. So
no.
But I mean, we'll see. Now, if he does that, but then they like build to something a little bit further, like where he keeps beating him up, and it's like, well, why would you do that? But
Sure.
Okay, so back to the main event. Like, really, the big thing to me is Sammy getting ran over by a golf cart.
I've seen so many like memes of like Mario Kart, Grand Theft Auto.
I've seen a lot of the Grand Theft Auto. I haven't seen the Mario Kart one yet. But the fact that Hardy, or I guess it was Damascus at that point, was like, I need you to document this, or whatever craziness he was going.
Yes.
And then, like, Kenny Omega leaning out the side, just screaming at Sammy while he's running. The only thing I was scared about was his feet flipping under the wheel and getting ran over. Like, when he spun. But you're going to say, what did she think?
My wife, because she was in and out of this match, she was doing something, and she saw them throw Matt Hardy into the ice cooler.
Yeah.
And she was just like, "Why are they throwing him in the ice cooler for?" I was like, "It's wrestling, honey. This is what they do."
Well, I kept waiting for him to put the broom handle or whatever through the handles.
Sure. So she leaves and she comes back in and he reemerges as Damascus or whatever, and she's like, "Why is he wearing something different now? And why is he?" I was like, "It's wrestling. You gotta get the wrestling mindset."
Like, not only is it wrestling, but it's Matt Hardy. So
yes,
I can't really explain it. You just have to accept it as what it is.
Now, I don't know if they couldn't do it or if it was just a missed opportunity. I was really hoping they would start wrestling on the Jags football field. I don't know.
Well, I was wondering if they were going to do something with that. Now, the in shot where they had like the inner circle on the screen was pretty awesome. It looked like the cover of like a boy band. Like when they're trying to be rebels and break the clean cut image.
Yeah.
But now I'm trying to think, because we had Omega did the crazy moonsault off the scissor lift.
Swing. Yeah.
Which was horrifying to watch.
Sure.
Because I didn't expect him to climb up on the railing like that. And then Santana Ortiz show up. The inner circle bomb through the table. Like, there's just, like, I don't know. Some people were complaining about inner circle, like, gang warfare, I saw. But, I mean, what else do you expect to have happen?
They're a gang, why wouldn't they?
Yeah, well, and I mean, Jericho even said that they're going to be more ruthless than ever. And I think this is a good example of that. So,
well, and realistically, if this was real,
right?
The inner circle they have all their people. The elite are
fragmented.
They're not full strength right now because a lot of them are quarantined or whatever.
Right.
So why wouldn't you attack them? So
yeah. Well, and you're I mean, if me and you were on a team and we didn't care about following the rules and we were fighting one guy, that's what you would do. Like, you want to
the terrible towers versus
some dude.
Yes.
Pomegranate Paul. That's who I'm going to use anytime we need a made-up character that we're going to fight.
Pomegranate Paul. There you
Yep.
go.
Totally original and not a rip-off that I thought of in like 10 seconds. But yeah, so it was the crowd, even though it was probably production people, except for that little kid that was wandering around in the back. Like, just that little bit makes such a difference.
It does. It does.
To WWE's sterile environment, I think I referred to it when we were talking.
Well,
It just
like you
seems
and me were talking.
too well
if they're
produced.
if they're on a studio lot, they might have rules where they can't have
Right.
a lot of people on there. You know, who knows?
Yeah, it's
So.
it's definitely hard to say, or they just feel that they don't want to, or they don't want to be accused of copying AEW, which I think is silly, but because they need to do something though, because
Well, the funny thing is, WWE has so many wrestlers. They could actually make their wrestlers like this. Sit
they could legitimately
and they-
fill up the performance center.
Yes.
I mean, that is true. Like, that could legitimately be like a packed house.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of the problem for them. I don't know, but although I will say, I try to wrap it up here, but I am 100% watching Money in the Bank because I want to see what's going to go on with that.
Yes.
I'm hoping AJ Styles flies off the roof and the immortal, phenomenal AJ Styles just shows back up on Raw like nothing happened.
Yes. Yes.
And it turns out that AJ Styles and The Undertaker had a Freaky Friday moment, and now The Undertaker's soul is inside AJ Styles.
Well, I was reading that. I guess AJ was a little bit disappointed how they brought, because he's
Yes.
like, he's like, technically, if the Undertaker killed me, he's like, he buried me. He's like, so you could have had me come back in a different way or a different character.
Yep.
Like, nope, you just introduced me.
Yeah, because I guess he was doing his Mixer stream or whatever it is, and someone asked, and he was like, "Yep," like he would have liked a little bit more himself, like some kind of change, but maybe they'll play into it. Like, I would love it if he was thrown off the roof and then he just shows up on Monday, like nothing happened.
Like the Giant and Hogan.
Oh my goodness!
Remember that?
Yeah,
Remember the Giant threw
the monster truck and
yeah.
I mean,
I
sometimes
remember that.
airbags are amazing.
I was watching a video about that. And the guy's like, he's like, Hogan legitimately committed murder in this episode of Nitro, and then it's never spoken of ever again.
It was like, we're gonna do this stunt, and it's gonna get a little bit of buzz, and then we're gonna forget it ever happened.
Yes.
That is the pro wrestling way.
On that note,
Yeah.
it was good. It was a good week for wrestling.
Yeah, it's exciting. So we'll be back next week. Hopefully we get something cool with everybody. Or just disaster. Like, I'm wanting Money in the Bank to be the greatest thing ever, or the worst thing I've ever laid eyes on.
Yes.
Where it just
Either
makes
way,
like no sense.
either way, there's something to talk about.
Yep. All right, everybody. Have a good one.
Yep.